what we see is that this is a vibrant region and a very vibrant ecosystem in Singapore and Southeast Asia in general. What our data shows is that in Singapore in particular, full 25% of adult Singaporeans believe that crypto is the future of finance. Over 32% of adult Singaporeans also indicated that they were crypto adopters, that they either own or had held digital currency. So what that really tells us is that, overall, I think the sentiments are still, resilient and positive despite all of the negative headlines and the events that have happened. And I think it also speaks to, even broadly regionally, the fact that I think, people are generally optimistic here. They're tech forward. They want to sort of adopt these new technologies, and they believe that, crypto is a really meaningful way to upgrade the financial system. Outside of Singapore, it's generally the same trends as well that I've sort of observed empirically working in Philippines, Indonesia, and other markets. These are large populous markets, 650 million in Southeast Asia overall. If you follow the adoption patterns of e-money, for example, I believe that crypto adoption will follow something similar as well. So I think it's come along very nicely, but I think there's still early days and still more to come. So those are things that we're sort of very excited about when we think about Singapore and why we decided to set up shop in Singapore. This is a market that is both a market that we're servicing locally as well as serves as our hub for servicing APAC. Overall, we're quite excited and pleased with how regulations have progressed in Singapore. The thing that we sort of always say and ask about is to make sure that there is a clear and level playing field for crypto companies. We like regulation, we like having clarity, we like knowing what the rules of the game are. And Singapore, in particular, as a tier 1 jurisdiction, has been forward-leaning into that. Back in 2019, the Monetary Authority of Singapore published the what's known as the Payment Services Act framework, and that's what allowed for crypto to come within the regulatory perimeter. Even just having that kind of that base foundation of what's in this case a licensing regime is actually very, very helpful, because what it allows us to do is to have assurance that there are certain ways by which, if we operate in those parameters, we can do investments into the market, and we can service local residents over sort of a long time frame. When it's not so clear, regulations can maybe sort of change abruptly, maybe because of political issues and whatnot. That's sort of where things get hazy and get in the way of running the business and servicing our users. That's sort of a big part of again why we're in Singapore, and we believe that this is an attractive market to be in over the long term. I think along with that, probably the next chapter of regulations that we're seeing, and this is really sort of worldwide to a certain extent, is that the phase 1 of regulations was about like AML and CTF, which is counter terrorism financing. The next chapter is going to be around concepts around user protection, investor protection, and so on. And those are also good things as well. What we ask for overall is to make sure that there's open retail access, that individual consumers and users are allowed to participate in the crypto ecosystem and not held up unnecessarily, and then be able to provide things like responsible disclosures and making sure that everything is sort of above board and transparent, which is something that's in the DNA of Coinbase already. Singapore has its own regulatory priorities, and it's actually shown a lot of vision and willingness to work with the industry. One of the great things about what we found about the MAS is that they truly understand the subject matter in a deep and almost sort of technical way. So that's led to some great conversations about the potential of the underlying technology, how to harness use cases. The MAS is also taking concrete steps towards incubating specific projects or initiatives that they would like to see the industry sort of moving towards as well. Some of these examples are what they're codenamed, but they're Project Orchid around things like programmable money, and Project Guardian around tokenized securities and so on. So those are all great data points of where we see the MAS making a very clear commitment of how it wants to move forward. Now, for other jurisdictions, we want to work in the U.S. The U.S. is all obviously special to us. We have a lot of respect for all the regulators there. We don't think that regulation by enforcement is really a good way to go about these things in terms of providing clarity for the entire industry. And that's sort of what we're trying to work through at the moment. But closer to sort of this home over here in Singapore, it's a different story and it's a different tune. Regulation is healthy and necessary for the crypto ecosystem to scale, because this is something that, as we've seen with other parallels in the financial services industries, these allow for even playing fields when you're dealing with concepts around value and financial value in particular. What we've seen is again in our data, what our data showed was that a lot of new users, one of their top concerns is around security. And security and regulation sort of go hand in hand, because regulation can provide that assurance that the industry is operating at a certain level. We've taken our own steps, because we, as a global and publicly traded company, we have very transparent kind of audited financials by a top 4 auditor. We've always paid a lot of attention to cybersecurity and making sure that things around like technology risk and those kinds of concepts are also very above board. But regulation allows the entire industry to keep up leveling itself as well. We strive to be the most trusted and the easiest to use crypto platform around, because that's sort of how we see that users want easy access and easy UX to be able to get started. So in our Singapore journey, we received the in-principle approval last October from the MAS, and then we announced that we're expanding our fiat rails and our kind of fiat on-ramp early March. This was with Standard Chartered, and it's a sort of a very kind of above board, well-regarded bank that we've partnered with to provide a very sturdy off-ramp. The next sort of wave and what we announced recently around USDC was really aimed at another concern that new users had surfaced in our data, which is that they were also looking to get exposure to assets that were less volatile, and ones that were more sort of pegged to other real-world assets like US dollars. So we've seen a lot of great traction with USDC overall, as a result of kind of these macro trends and volatility. With this announcement, what we've done is we've waived our fees around being able to purchase USDC with Sing Dollar. So if you have a local bank account with STD, you can basically buy USDC on our platform without fees. And then we've also layered on what we're calling USDC rewards. So we just reward you for holding USDC on our platform as well. And that will finally be complemented by adding what we call trading pairs on our advanced trading for advanced users. So those are now denominated in USDC as well. Early users and beginner users can just buy USDC even cheaper now and earn rewards, and advanced users can sort of get more utility out of USDC. Our mission is to increase economic freedom around the world by using crypto, and we're a global company at heart. And what we're excited is to accelerate our international expansion and continue to keep investing wherever we see the best opportunities. It's hard to predict sort of what the future holds, but what I can say is that we're very committed to Singapore. Singapore continues to be our APAC hub. We have a registration in Australia as well, where we do provide kind of onshore fiat on-ramp services as well, along with Singapore. But what we see is, with Singapore as a hub for APAC is proving to be a pretty meaningful approach for accessing the rest of the region. Now, along with some of the things that I discussed before, what we're also doing is we provide institutional services, for all of APAC clients out of Singapore as well. We have developer products like Base, which is our layer 2 blockchain on top of Ethereum. That's available, worldwide, including APAC. We have Coinbase Ventures, which is also investing in the region as an ecosystem fund. We have 19 investments in Singapore alone, and then as well as more in Australia and Southeast Asia and India and other markets as well. The great thing about crypto is because it's sort of this foundational, new technology, you can apply it in so many different directions. And because it's 24/7 and open access, that's exactly what's happening, right? And you're seeing these emergent use cases. So, I think even just some of the bread and butter stuff about like using crypto for payments, especially cross-border remittances and purchases like e-commerce cross-border, I think those are things that we're seeing some really good traction on, especially now that stablecoins have started to take off. So I expect more investment in that area and some really kind of scaled up uses to come around in the next wave. Even on the consumer side, probably the thing I'm the most excited about in Southeast Asia is Web3 gaming. I think a lot of those seeds were sown in the last cycle. A lot of like studios have raised as well in Vietnam and Philippines and whatnot. And I think those are probably going to start, coming out pretty soon, because game development also takes a little bit of time. On the infrastructure and tooling side, what we're also seeing is just overall developer experience, dev tooling, dev environments getting more robust, and stitching together things like, just different chains so that app developers are able to build once and ship multiple times. And then finally, at the infrastructure stack, I think scaling, throughput, decentralization on blockchain it's an evergreen topic. It's one that is still sort of in progress. And so that's also why we're excited to be able to incubate Base and bring that as part of our contribution to the infrastructure side as well.